Hello, my name is Cadet Haslam. I am the IO of this AIB.
My name is Claire Maluznik. I am just an investigator for this AIB.
I'm Brandon McKinney. I am president of the AIB.
Hi, I'm Kurt Hopefield. I'm just an investigator.
And this is our presentation of our crash investigation of a Cessna 401A.
This is a picture of the plane. It is not the exact plane, but that is the type of plane we're investigating.
So the aircraft information, it was a Cessna 401A. The engines it used were Continental TSIO 520Es. It had 2 of those, 1 in each wing. It was reported as in compliance with FAA regulations, and a piece of information about this aircraft we believe might be linked to the crash was that the leading edge of the left wing was replaced just prior to the accident.
The name of the pilot was Joe Morton. The age of him was 65 years old. He had no medical issues. Total hours of a flight was 2,646 hours. And specifically trained in this aircraft was 117 hours. And last medical report was October 22nd, 2014.
Okay, pilot's injury. Wait, no. What? The pilot's injury was, the name was Easton A. Lovefield. He was flying at 5,045 feet. Runway was filling 3, he was off by 3 feet or more. Longest runway they have is 7,616 feet. And the size of the width is 760 feet.
Alright, the meteorological information that we had that was at the time of the accident. Some of it was the visibility at the time was 40 statute miles. The temperature at the time was about 58 degrees Fahrenheit. The dew point was about 27. The altimeter at this time was reading 30.12 millimeters of mercury. Right. So, for our flight history, the aircraft received clearance for takeoff at 0839 Coordinated Universal Time. He was ordered to turn on a heading of 090 to avoid the city of Prescott and to climb to 13,500 feet. He took off at 0840 and began turning to heading 090. 2 minutes later at 0842, the pilot reported losing part of his left wing, and he began turning back toward Prescott Airport. However, at 0843, he reported a fire in the left engine, and at 0844, he sent his last transmission saying that he was not going to be able to make it back to the airport, and seconds later, eyewitnesses reported seeing a fireball as the plane crashed.
Eyewitness accounts, what they reported was some of them saw a fire under the left wing, but not on any other part of the aircraft. They also report seeing parts of the left wing missing as it was flying overhead.
This is the second eyewitness statement we had from a man named Walter Wilson. He said that he saw a flame on the left side under the wing specifically, and he said that it turned sharply to the left before it dove down and exploded. The picture we have on the next slide details the flight route. The aircraft started at point J, which was the airfield, and then moved in the following order of points, C through I. As the disregard point K, that was impeded by accident and is not a point on the aircraft flight path. It might be hard to see, but point J is up here, then it came down, point C, and then it started to curve back around and went down just around here.
So the pilot injuries, he had 100% fuel and thermal burns to his body. He had a fractured skull, maxilla, mandible, both clavicles, right humerus, spine, all ribs, sacrum, pubis, both femora, both tibia, right fibula, and left metatarsal bones. He had avulsion of the heart and left lung, lacerations to the left lung, esophagus, small intestine, mesentery, liver, spleen, and uteries. Avulsion of the urinary bladder and testes, and multiple severe lacerations and abrasions.
Aircraft damage. The aircraft pretty much was just exploded into pieces when it hit the ground, but some parts were found further away from the aircraft, which we expect that was mostly cause of the crash.
And the right wing sustained serious damage from a fire, which we believe was a post-crash fire. Most of the left wing showed little signs of fire damage. It was pretty beat up from the impact. And the cockpit section was completely smashed and torn apart.
This is pretty much the diagram of the crash. It's kind of hard to see. The airport is where he took off from, and he lost part of his wing, and then the tail is pretty much the second farthest part of the aircraft, and all the rest of it just crashed up there.
Right. So information related to the crash. Eyewitness reports say that the left wing was on fire on the underside of the wing. On the pilot recording, he reports that there's at least 3 feet of the wing missing off the tip, and the aileron was also missing off the wing. The aileron ran right by fuel lines and vapor return lines, and was extremely close to the wingtip fuel tank. And as stated before, the leading edge of the left wing was placed just prior to the accident. So, cause of the crash, we believe that there is a strong possibility that the leading edge of the wing, which was replaced just prior to the accident, had a fault of some sort that caused the aileron, which would have been connected to it, to come off. The process of the aileron coming off the aircraft would have caused damage to the fuel or vapor return lines and to the wingtip fuel tank. This would have then resulted in fuel coming out of the damaged lines and flow down through the inside of the wing to the engine. And then we're not sure exactly how a fire was started. There are 2 strong possibilities. The first is that wires that could have possibly been damaged by the loss of the aileron could have sparked the fuel on its way down to the engine. And if this was not the case, when the fuel neared the engine, the heat coming off of the engine would have been sufficient enough to ignite the fuel after a certain period of time of exposure to the engine's heat. And then the rest of our information that we believe caused the crash, when the fire sparked, it would have sparked around the engine, as the engine was relatively undamaged. The aircraft was traveling at sufficient speeds to blow the flames out and under the left wing, which would explain eyewitness statements saying that the fire was under the wing, and signs of scorching which were solely underneath the wing. The engine was proved as capable of running at full power, but eyewitnesses said the plane seemed to lose altitude and power as it flew. The logical explanation is that the fire was consuming the aircraft's fuel too fast, and the pilot was chopping power to the engines to conserve fuel, but before it could reach the runway, it flipped over and crashed. The conclusion we have reached is that the fire consumed the fuel in the left wing, which then caused the left engine to effectively shut down, which would also explain an eyewitness statement saying that the flame reportedly went out right before the crash. If the engine went out, that would have caused an imbalance of power, and the power or thrust of the right engine would have been sufficient to cause the aircraft to make its sharp turn, which then caused it to crash.
Wreckage and impact information. We know that the aircraft was turning left as it was coming in for the airport, but it didn't make it. What happened was it crashed, and then what happened with the right wing, it caught fire after the crash, which all of the fuel came out of the wing after the crash. The fuselage was heavily damaged and ripped apart, and all of the cockpit was all twisted up and wrecked.
Medical and pathological information. The deputy medical examiner, Romina Hollenden, stated that the pilot had died as a result of multiple lacerations, severe injuries, and thermal and fuel burns to 100% of his body. In conclusion, his death was an accident. It was purely caused by the crash.
These are some pictures we have of our crash sites of various parts of the aircraft. Alright, so our final conclusion is that the left aileron came off, possibly due to a fault in the recently replaced leading edge of the wing. The loss of the aileron then damaged fuel lines, which resulted in fuel spilling out into the interior of the wing. The fuel then flowed down to the engine, where it then caught fire, ignited either by damaged wires or by the heat of the engine. And the fire then consumed fuel in the left wing, causing the pilot to reduce power to try and conserve fuel. Ultimately, the fire burned up too much fuel, causing the left engine to lose power, and the thrust of the right engine then pushed the plane over to the left and caused it to crash.
Recommendations. Our first recommendation would be to implement better checks of replacement parts and pieces to the aircraft. Our second recommendation would be to replace the fuel lines with more heavier protected fuel lines and vapor return lines. Our third recommendation would be to switch the fuel used by the Cessna 401 to a fuel that is more unlikely to ignite due to extreme heat and sparking.
And that is the end of our presentation.
All right, everybody give a round of applause. Turn the lights, please. Okay, from the audience, any questions? Hold it. First one, yes, back.
Are you aware that the main purpose of fuel is to light when it's on heat?
Yes, but
There is almost no fuel that could be.
I'll show
like
you can turn off it. Okay.
diesel fuel is less likely to ignite.
We also-
It's harder.
We also have evidence that the U.S. Navy has confirmed that it has used types of fuel in the past that is less likely to expose to ignite when exposed to high temperatures in order to avoid fires on the necks of aircraft carriers.
But do you think the Navy's just going to give out that fuel willingly to random civilian pilots willy-nilly?
Yeah, are they?
Here's some fuel. Don't light it on fire.
There are other ways to acquire fuel that is less likely to ignite when exposed to fire than other than just acquiring it from the U.S. Navy.
You said it didn't meet the regulations of the FAA.
It did meet the
It did.
regulations.
Oh, correct. Sorry. Then why was the wing nut checked? It was after it was repaired.
We believe that there was a fault that was not detected in that replacement part, and we believe it just may have been irresponsibility on the part of the mechanic when he inspected the wing.
Why was the aileron replaced?
The aileron itself was not replaced, it was the leading edge of the left wing.
Maybe you guys would like to replace.
Mhm.
Why was it replaced?
We believe it was just routine maintenance, that it had been too long since it was last replaced and it just needed a new part. Yes?
Why just the left wing, not the right wing?
We are not sure of that, why it was only the left wing.
Why?
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 Any more questions?
Was it only the pilot, or was there other people in there?
There
It
was,
just a pilot.
yeah, it was just a pilot. He was flying a mail delivery.
Herbert.
Why was the mechanic lazy? Why did he not go back and check it properly, like he was supposed to?
We're not sure of that.
Was he drinking at all, or?
We have no evidence that he was drinking. There's the possibility that the problem was minute and difficult to spot. Or we believe that he may just have made a human error and passed over it. And
What did the mechanic say in his interview?
he just said that he inspected the part as he was supposed to, and that he didn't really find anything unusual. Yes.
Was the pilot drinking before the flight?